All right, here's my buddy Nick Wright. So let's start with this. Let's start with Jordan Love's performance. I want your takeaway on what you watched from Jordan Love in his first official big boy start.
Well, I think we have to be fair to Jordan because we're now learning that, the three-time or two-time defending AFC champion Chiefs, it's basically Steel Curtain 2.0 on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, did you see? I don't know. I don't know if you watched Daniel Jones today. Just slice and dice the Raiders, made him look awful pedestrian. The Titans scored 0 second half points in a game against us just a few weeks ago. So I don't know. I mean, now if you don't think the Chiefs have a historically great defense, as all the data suggests they might, here's what I was worried about, Colin. Everyone on Friday was just crushing Aaron Rodgers as he deserved to be crushed, and that was before the McAfee interview. And the very last words I said on my show were, he's probably going to get the last laugh in this thing because Jordan Love is going to come out, look awful and overwhelmed, and he's going to get to say, bleep you, told you so, that's the guy you drafted to replace me. Jordan Love, Colin, I know it's his first start, but he's been in the league a year and a half.
I know.
He's not supposed to look that bad. One other thing to remind the audience. Sorry, but last year we got a hint of this because he was not the backup last year. He was inactive, if you remember, on game days all year long. He was third string, so he shouldn't look that bad. He's not supposed to look that bad.
Yeah, people always point to Josh Allen, who we know coming out of college was sort of a wild pony, bursting out of the barn. I would like to throw up to you Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and Mac Jones, who have looked very good very quickly. So, people love to use examples that benefit them, but my concern was also how Kansas City defended him. What Kansas City was telling you after about 3 series is, we have no respect for him. We're going to blitz him every second big third down.
He can't read the defense pre-snap, or
That's
he's not
right.
allowed to change plays or something. And poor Troy Aikman, I thought Troy Aikman was going to jump out of the booth at the one play where he didn't throw a pick on this play, but it was a big play late in the game. And Troy says before the snap, all right, so they're telling you there's no one in the middle of the field. There's no one in the middle of the field. And then he throws down the sideline, the near sideline. And then on the replay, Troy says, the thing is, when there's no one in the middle of the field, you should throw to the middle of the field. Like Troy was trying to be gentle, but he's supposed to look better. He just is supposed to look better. And I'm kidding about the Chiefs defense, obviously. Chiefs defense isn't good. Like, They might not be the worst in football like they were the first month of the year, but he was supposed to look better than that. And the Packers were supposed to win that game. Chiefs offense looked terrible. I know we'll get to it. Packers were supposed to win that game, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell a lot by how a team calls a game. Green Bay and Matt LaFleur, very risk averse. You can tell a lot about a quarterback by how a defense plays him, and both told you he's very, very limited a year and a half in. So that's not great. Now, there are late bloomers in this. I mean, we know there's some late bloomers, but I didn't really see anything. I mean, he's not as athletic or move around guy like Russell or Kyler. His arm is okay. It's not special. He's got a big body. He moves pretty well, but I didn't see anything special. Now, I say that about Tua, but I think Jordan's a bigger, more athletic guy than Tua. I'm not talking about a completely, ineffective, small, average arm. Jordan's got some gifts, but people remember this. His last year in college, a lot of mistakes. A lot of the GMs I talked to.
And small school, which I'm not a huge fan of. And again, here's the thing about exceptions. There are exceptions for a reason. We can't talk about all the trends Josh Allen broke and then use that as Josh Allen did it. It's the same thing in the NBA when it's like, if you don't have a top 5 player, you can't win the title. And everyone's like, oh, the 04 Pistons. What about the 04 Pistons? It's like, yeah, man, there's a reason you still have to go back for the only time in 30 years it's been true was the 04 Pistons.
Also, Nick, when people use Josh Allen, yes, but he was 6'6" with a cannon arm, which Jordan Love's not that big or didn't have that arm, and he was hurdling people. You go to YouTube and look up Josh Allen's first 8 games. He was hurdling linebackers. So
They could have used that today, by the way. Getting beat by the Jaguars. Oh, the Bills. Oh, the big scary Buffalo Bills. Hello, Josh Allen MVP. Oh, scary Bills lose the Jags.
Okay, now let's segue into the Aaron Rodgers stuff. So,
Yeah.
everybody knows my assertion with Aaron, which has always been he's a narcissist, he's into Aaron, he's pretty selfish. When you can't get along with multiple members of your family, I've always been really skeptical. And his comments about, I'm a critical thinker, as if anybody that gets a vaccine, you're not a critical thinker. The idea that he gave 500 pages of anti-vax and ineffective mask, that is weird. And he was asked what the NFL thought, and he said, well, they thought it was a whack. Yeah, Aaron,
Yeah.
that's what people do that have 9 followers on Twitter and have a name like Jack with 13 numbers behind it. Like the people that think they've got the secret remedy.
It's just incredibly arrogant, Colin. It's just incredibly arrogant. The idea, and this isn't just Aaron, it's a lot of folks. But folks that think, here's what I would ask. Pardon me here. The fuck do you think people are doing for 8 years in medical school? Playing Candy Crush? Like these folks that are acting like I've solved it. Well, what'd you do? I dedicated a weekend. You dedicated a weekend? These poor suckers are doing 40-hour rotations or in a lab or conducting experiments. And it's just, I would never, and it's so odd that people have gone this route on science and medicine. Could you imagine if I went, I can't, I don't even know what a good comp is, but I go to the mechanic and I'm like, hey, you rebuilt that engine wrong. How do you know? I watched a YouTube video. What? Like, no, he's an expert. He's trained. I just can't believe the arrogance of guys. And let me say something else about it real quick. If Aaron Rodgers actually thought he had discovered something about vaccines, it's incredibly selfish to not share it with the world. Like, you've cracked something. Evidently, you tell everyone. Don't be cagey. Oh, I'm immunized. I didn't want to say. If you if you've uncovered one of the greatest conspiracies in the history of modern America, you should let the world know. But I don't know.
There's also coding. When somebody says, like Aaron, I don't care what anybody thinks, that is code for I care what everybody thinks. And Aaron has always been super sensitive, so he's gone into hiding now. By the way, I think this is being lost. The Packers no longer have the number 1 seed in the NFC. Arizona does. They will not have the number 2 seed if the Rams win. And by the way, a dome team, Rams, and a warm weather team, Tampa, could have played in January in Lambeau, a significant break for Green Bay. If they lose, so they don't have the number 1 seed, nor
Right now.
perhaps the 2 seed. If they lose against Seattle when Aaron can't practice, they're then behind Tampa. They're a 4 seed.
By the way, they're going to be behind Tampa. Tampa's scheduled the rest of the way. They have one team left that you expect to make the playoffs, the Bills. Another game against New Orleans, maybe they will, but those are their only. The third toughest game left for Tampa's Atlanta. And it's unbelievable. I thought you might lead with this, Colin. The biggest winner this weekend of every football player in the world was Tom Brady. He didn't play. Think about it. He's coming off a bad game. But think about Brady and the MVP. All right, well, Josh Allen just was awful. And they lost to the Jags, turned the ball over a bunch. Derrick Henry's done for the year. Dak Prescott was terrible. Aaron Rodgers missed a game. Kyler missed a game, and his team won. Lamar, they won. Lamar wasn't great. Brady, all of a sudden, I think has to be the overwhelming MVP favorite. And with the Cowboys losing and the Packers losing, I think the Rams and Cardinals, I think that schedule for both of them is tough enough that you've got to think Tampa. I feel like Tampa right now, worst case scenario, is 13-4. And it looks like Brady's going to be the MVP and Tampa's going to be the 1 seed. It's unbelievable. The Bucs don't play this weekend, and they're the biggest winners. And Brady's MVP hopes skyrocket this week. All the other MVP candidates Rodgers missed time. Rodgers can't win it now, even though he looks more like an MVP now than before, because you saw the Packers without him. No one's going to vote for Rodgers after this. He misses time because of this nonsense.
It's one of those things where, I talked about, I was on with Ethan Strauss the other day. He's a
Yeah, he's
NBA,
great.
he's real smart, thoughtful. I don't view him as contrarian, but he has a lot of different views on stuff. In fact, included covering the NBA. But we were talking about a lot of things, and there's he like you, he makes me think. And when I was done with the podcast, I went and put something on my phone for the volume. And that one of the great pieces of advice I once got in my life is there's enough hurdles and obstacles to overcome. Don't get in the way of yourself. Yeah, it's hard enough to overcome the challenges. I really think Aaron has gotten in the way of himself. And Bill Simmons mentioned this to me the other day, is when you get older and you're single, you don't sacrifice for your kids, you don't sacrifice for a wife, being married, having kids. It's a lot of L's. It's a lot of take one for the team. Combine that with Aaron is in the smallest market in America for a pro sports team, so he is a messiah. Combine that with they have no owner to call him on his shit. And that Aaron's gotten into a world where it's Aaron does what Aaron wants. Aaron says what Aaron wants. Aaron has no pushback. And I think he's starting to sort of get in his own way a little bit.
Well, listen, I said this on the show, I think on Thursday. I'm not sure when, and I don't know if you heard it when you were driving in, but I said, I was like, man, Colin's been on this corner for the better part of a half decade, that Aaron Rodgers has an allergy to criticism. And him doing these gymnastics about immunized and the masking at press conferences, all for one express purpose, avoiding criticism, is all the proof you possibly needed that you were right about that. And and I've gone to battle with you about the Aaron stuff, but this whole thing is such a rough look for him, and listen, I obviously think that folks who can be vaccinated should be. However, the the quarterbacks who have chosen not to, it's been a one day if that story. Then you move on. The Kyrie was a big story because it cost him his season. But in the NFL, those guys have not been. Lamar hasn't been crushed for this. Kirk Cousins, we made fun of him for a little bit because he was talking about like building plexiglass rooms and stuff. But aside from that, that was it. But Aaron didn't even want to deal with that. And it is, to me, all of it shows it does give you a window, and it's not a flattering one. And on the field, if folks want to, don't care about any of the vaccine stuff, just on the field, with the way the Chiefs' offense looked today, does anyone think if Aaron Rodgers is out there, the Packers aren't 8-1 right now?
Yeah.
Does anybody think that? And he's not. They weren't, and now they're in. It's an uphill battle, and they likely will have one playoff game in Lambeau this year, and that's it.